Hi guys, Is It Worth It Reviews is back. Did you miss me? If you did, then click that like button. If you didn't, then, well, you don't have to do anything, just we're good. Now today we'll be talking about SMSL DO300. It's the latest SMSL DAC and it's kinda mid-range, I think, in SMSL terms at least. It costs $550. And it's very similar to the DAC that I've already reviewed, SMSL SU9 Pro. But small differences mean a lot to some of you. For some of you it's negligible. But here I am. I'm going to talk about those small differences, so at the end of this video you can decide for yourself which one of these two pretty great DACs suit you better personally. And I was able to do this particular comparison because nice guys from Orange Store sent me the DO300 for a review. I'll leave their link below the video so you can visit the store and see if there's anything interesting for you personally. So about the DO300, it's slightly bigger, slightly weightier than SMSL SU9 Pro that I've recently reviewed. If you didn't watch that video, go back, watch it, then return here and watch this one again, because some things will be easier to understand, like comparisons and stuff. So DO300 is slightly bigger, weightier than SU9 Pro, and it offers slightly better connectivity too. So besides very usual USB, optical and coaxial connections, we have I2S in form of HDMI port, and then AES EBU in form of XLR ports. Those are also digital inputs. So we have more versatile digital connectivity. Outputs are the same, balanced XLRs and unbalanced or single-ended RCAs as the output of this DAC. Front is slightly different, but functionally everything is the same, and it's the same old SMSL operating system that let you choose several different filters, lower the DPLL if you want to achieve a slightly higher sound fidelity, if your connection is stable enough, and choose among several different tone colors, which are like small DSPs. I don't go into that, I usually prefer normal without any DSP processing, but you can if you wish to do so. Now, internals are also very similar, if not exactly the same. Again, it's a flagship Sabre DAC chip. Again, we have 11 operational amplifiers on the output section, and again, we have XMOS 316 or something like that. It's very powerful signal processing, and it enables you high resolutions, like really highs, the ones that you will never use basically, DSDs, MQA if you're into it. I'm not, I basically don't like MQA, but I won't bother you with that here. There's a remote control in the box, it's small and plastic, but it does the job, it's like usual SMSL stuff. And also Bluetooth connectivity that I forgot to mention when I was showing you the back of the unit. So whichever way you like to connect this, whatever types of file you like to play, you're covered, even for the MQA. And one thing that I've noticed that is the advantage compared to SU9 Pro is that it's slightly bigger and slightly heavier. So when I connected some of my very heavy power cables and cables in general, yeah, I do that. I'm that crazy audiophile that buys into snake oil. That is not really snake oil, but some people call it like that. They're rude and jealous because we audiophiles hear things that they cannot. So yeah, back to cables. Heavy cables might lift SU9 Pro a little bit from the shelf, but the DO300 here is just weightier enough and bigger enough to actually hold its ground, and I didn't have to weigh it down with anything else. That's a plus, at least in my book. And this leaves us with sound. How does the DO300 sounds? And if you know anything about SMSL of late, that means if you follow my channel, you will probably have a great idea of how DO300 sounds. It sounds very natural, nice, full, dynamic, engaging. It's definitely not thin, analytical, too bright, or anything like that. So I won't bother you with that. Again, if you don't know what's the SMSL sound signature, go back and watch my SMSL SU9 Pro review, for example. You will learn stuff, I promise, and you will watch several of my videos and help me and my YouTube algorithm. It's a win-win, guys. Just go do it. For the rest of you that are regulars, first of all, thank you. And also, the thing that you should know is the DO300 sounds very similar to the SU9 Pro, which is actually great because, why? Because SU9 Pro sounds great too. And the difference, there is a slight difference. DO300 sounds a little bit fuller, weightier and warmer. And you probably know that that is my jam, but it doesn't have to mean anything, because depending on your personal taste and the rest of your system, you might prefer slightly fuller and warmer sound of DO300 or slightly, just ever so slightly, leaner sound tonality of SU9 Pro. So, for example, if you are using solid-state amplifier or just D-class amp, for example, something like small topping PA5, I think that you would prefer DO300 because it would lend some warmth and full bodiness to that amp. But if you are connecting any of these DACs to a shit Freya Plus preamp, for example, well, if it's with its stock tubes, you would still probably prefer DO300, but if you're using any NOS tubes that lend bigger, fuller, juicier, warmer sound to that preamp, you might say, yeah, like SU9 Pro is actually the more neutral one that has just a little bit more clarity in the mid-range and less warmth, and that's more neutral, that's more revealing. But what I'm trying to say here is that they're completely equal in terms of overall sound fidelity. The sound staging is quite good and great with both. Separation and just layering, overall clarity is almost at the same level. As I mentioned, SU9 Pro may appear just a tad cleaner and maybe a little bit leaner sounding, whereas DO300 is a touch warmer and fuller, but sometimes because of that you might feel that it's not as incisive as SU9 Pro. I'm talking like 1% difference. Truth be told, if your system is not as revealing as my testing room setup, you might not even notice the difference. So don't sweat it. Just choose according to your needs. Better think of those different inputs and just form factor, things like that. Another comparison that you might ask me to do, and I will, is with Topping E70 Velvet. And this is another around $500 DAC that sounds great. And funny enough, all these three DACs, DO300, E70 Velvet, and SU9 Pro, are much more alike than they're different. They all have those same qualities, that rich tone timbre, rich tonality in general, no harshness, no excessive brightness. They're not overly edgy, analytical, so they're just nice and smooth and rich sounding DACs. But if you insist that I talk about differences, well, I can tell you there's not much to talk about, because E70 Velvet maybe sounds even a bit closer to DO300 than it was the case with SU9 Pro. If you remember, I told you that E70 Velvet might be a slightly fuller and warmer sounding in the mid-range than SU9 Pro, that felt like having just maybe a slightly better layering and soundstage depth. Well, that's still the case. E70 Velvet is actually closer to DO300, and these two sound almost the same. Weird, right? SMSLs and toppings sound the same, tuned the same, almost the same way. So choose some other way. think about features, about connections, go be a fanboy. That's fun. Topping, yeah. SMSL, yeah. I'm not sure myself which one to keep. I'm just going to close my eyes and choose, like a kid choosing between 3 favorite candies, because all candies are favorite for kids, let's not fool ourselves. My questionable humor aside, let me go back to SMSL DO300. It's another great entry into $500 category, somewhere around that. It's filled with features, it sounds great, it's slightly bigger and weightier than most DACs at that price point, and as I said, that can be good if you are using like big chunky cables on the back. And it also sounds a little bit fuller and weightier than average DAC at that price. But some of these others, as I said, might appear a little bit leaner and maybe more linear, flatter sounding. If that's your thing, it's not. If you like full and lush, then DO300 might be a really good choice for you personally. And if you think that it might be, then please do use my links down below the video, because that way you help the channel and you help me continue doing this and sharing my really honest and unbiased opinions. Because you can't buy this guy's opinions. And if you appreciate that, then click that button, consider subscribing, maybe even becoming a patron, or none of that. If you don't want to, that's okay, okay with me, okay, I still like you. Well, not that much as these other viewers, but yeah, I kind of still like you. Until next time, see you, bye.